Once upon a time, deep in the heart of a lush green jungle, there lived a family of hedgehogs. They were happy little hedgehogs, loved by everyone in the jungle for their kindness and simple way of living. Among them was a little hedgehog named Pip. Unlike his family, Pip was a bit of a show-off. He loved to show off his fancy tricks and boast about how clever he was. And his favorite thing to do was to roll into a ball, puff up his spikes, and say, "Look how big and strong I am. No one can hurt me." The other animals would just shake their heads and smile at Pip's antics. They knew he was just a little hedgehog with a big imagination. One day, Pip was busy showing off when a sudden and violent storm shook the tall trees and frightened all the jungle animals. Heavy rain began to pour down and strong winds started to blow. Poor little Pip. He was almost swept away by the heavy rain and falling branches. Just then, his quick and kind family rushed to his aid. They held on to him tightly and pulled him to safety under a big leaf. They scolded him for being so careless and told him to stay with them in the den until the storm had passed. That night, after the storm had gone, all the animals snuggled up with their families to keep warm and dry. But little Pip couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned in his nest, thinking about what had happened earlier that day. For the first time, he realized that his favorite trick of puffing up his spikes wasn't making him special or strong. In fact, it had almost gotten him hurt. And most of the times, his boasting and bragging had made the other animals roll their eyes and walk away. Pip felt sad and lonely. He wanted to be loved and respected by the other animals, but he didn't know how. Just then, an old and wise owl hooted softly, "Little Pip, why aren't you sleeping? Did you learn nothing from today's storm?" Pip looked up and asked, "What do you mean?" The owl said, "You need to understand that the strongest and the smartest are not the ones who boast and brag, but the ones who are kind and humble, like your family. They don't show off, yet they are loved by everyone. You may think showing off makes you special, but true happiness comes from being humble and helping others." Pip thought about the owl's words and realized he had been wrong all along. He had been so busy trying to show off that he had forgotten to be kind and helpful. He had forgotten the most important lessons his mum and dad had taught him. The next morning, the sun shone brightly and the birds sang sweetly in the trees. Pip woke up feeling happy and excited. He went out of the den and saw his family busy collecting berries and fruits for breakfast. "Good morning," he said. "Can I help you?" His mum and dad smiled and said, "Of course, you can help us." And together they all went out into the jungle to find food. After breakfast, Pip went to see his friend, a little mouse. He had been bragging to the mouse about his strength and skills. So when Pip told him he was sorry for boasting, the mouse said, "It's all right, Pip. We all have our faults. I'm glad you realized it and changed." Then the two friends went to the river to get some water. On the way, they met a little monkey whose tail had got caught in some vines. Without even thinking, Pip used his sharp little nose to break the vines and free the monkey. "Thank you," said the monkey. "You're a real hero." Pip blushed and said, "Oh, it was nothing. I'm not a hero. I'm just a little hedgehog." The monkey smiled and said, "Well, you may not be a hero in your own story, but you are in mine. And remember, true heroes aren't defined by their strength, but by their kindness and courage." From that day on, Pip decided to live a simple life. He stopped bragging and boasting and instead helped the other animals whenever he could. And guess what? They all loved him for it. Pip finally understood that being humble and kind was much better than being a show-off. He was happy and respected by everyone in the jungle, and that's what made him the happiest of them all. The end.